Was quite known for her feisty personality.
The feeling that we got when they came out with the baby, we couldn't miss it again. We couldn't miss this one.
No one expected it. Not the audience at the lavish state banquet in Paris. Not even Prince William and Princess Catherine, who exchanged surprised glances across the grand dining hall. But there it was, public, unscripted, and undeniably historic. Right in the heart of France's Palace of Versailles, under chandeliers and centuries of diplomacy, King Charles broke royal tradition in a way no one saw coming. He looked toward his granddaughter, Princess Charlotte, and conferred upon her a rare royal title, on the spot. The room fell silent. Cameras kept rolling. And in that exact moment, the expression on Charlotte's face said everything. Surprise, joy, a flicker of disbelief. Was this really happening? It wasn't just a ceremonial gesture. It was a calculated, emotionally charged move that bypassed years of royal protocol. By traditional standards, titles like this are not handed out without layers of approval, timing, and royal process. But Charles didn't wait. He didn't ask. He acted. So now everyone's asking, why? Why Charlotte and why now? Is this favoritism from a grandfather overwhelmed by affection? Or is it something more, something strategic, symbolic, even prophetic? Because this wasn't just any child receiving any title. This was the king placing a new piece on the royal chessboard, in front of the world. Charlotte, just 10 years old, has been in the public eye since the moment she was born. But until now, she's remained in the shadows of tradition. Second child, the spare, the quieter sibling to the future king. Today, all of that changed. The title itself hasn't been formally announced to the press yet, but according to royal insiders, it's one that could elevate Charlotte's status significantly within the royal framework and potentially shape the next chapter of monarchy. One court correspondent said the move felt like watching history being rewritten in real time. And for Charlotte, that moment wasn't just about lineage. It was about presence, grace, composure. She stood up, literally and figuratively, and received the honor with poise far beyond her years. This wasn't supposed to be her spotlight, but now the light has found her, and King Charles made sure of it. Royal titles are not just names, they're statements, carefully constructed markers of lineage, rank, and future expectation. And in Princess Charlotte's case, her evolving title tells a much larger story, one of history being reshaped in real time, with her at the center. At birth, she was known to the world as Her Royal Highness Princess Charlotte of Cambridge. A dignified title, certainly, but one tethered to her father's then role as Duke of Cambridge. But titles in the House of Windsor are fluid. They rise, fall, and adapt with generational change. And when Queen Elizabeth II passed in 2022 and Prince William became Prince of Wales, Charlotte's title changed too. Princess Charlotte of Wales. A short shift in words, but a seismic shift in meaning. This is a title that once belonged to Diana, the most beloved royal of the 20th century. And now, without fanfare or ceremony, it has passed to her granddaughter. Charlotte is not just wearing the title, she's inheriting a legacy. But this wasn't always guaranteed. Before 2013, under the rules set by King George V in 1917, only the eldest son of the Prince of Wales would automatically receive the HRH title. Daughters? They were excluded by default, royal by blood, but unnamed by tradition. That changed when Queen Elizabeth II intervened. She issued a letters patent that ensured all of William's children, regardless of gender, would be titled as princes and princesses. In doing so, she did more than modernize an old rule. She drew a new royal map. Because of that one decision, Charlotte didn't just become a princess. She became the first princess in British history to maintain her position in the line of succession, even after the birth of a younger brother. When Prince Louis was born, Charlotte wasn't pushed aside. She stood firm. It was quiet history, but history nonetheless. Her title, Her Royal Highness, is not a courtesy. It signals that she is a princess of the blood, born into royalty rather than marrying into it. This is what sets her apart, not just from other royals around the world, but even from her own mother, who, despite the adoration of the public, is technically not a princess in her own right. Charlotte's name is a mirror. It reflects where she comes from, where the monarchy is headed, and how much has already been rewritten for her sake. In the world of monarchy, words matter, and Princess Charlotte's name is already making history, one title at a time. From the moment she was born, Princess Charlotte's image has been shaped not only by royal blood, but by royal strategy. Unlike generations before her, Charlotte isn't just a child of the crown. She's a product of a new monarchy, carefully managed, digitally visible, and emotionally resonant. William and Catherine understood from day one their daughter would grow up in a world of cameras, social media, and microscopic scrutiny. So they built a buffer. They chose a balance. They crafted a public Charlotte, one who smiles, waves, and charms at every outing, but whose private world remains fiercely protected. This wasn't an accident. It was a masterclass in modern royal branding. Gone are the days when royal children were shielded entirely from public view, but neither is Charlotte exposed in the way Diana's boys once were. Instead, the palace has calibrated each appearance, from her first Christmas walkabout to her conductor debut at Cardiff, as stepping stones. Not too much, not too soon. Just enough to make the public fall in love without letting the spotlight consume her. And it's worked. Charlotte is now a global figure by the age of 10. But unlike child celebrities or political heirs, she's not overexposed. She's a symbol of approachability, without sacrificing dignity. A bridge between centuries of monarchy and the realities of 21st century fame. Every coat she wears, every gesture she makes, every smile caught on camera, none of it feels rehearsed. But all of it is deliberate. The Wales family has made sure of that. She's not just being raised to inherit a title, she's being trained to represent a nation. And the public has responded. From TikTok clips to news front pages, Charlotte's face is everywhere. But her mystery remains intact. That's the genius of the modern monarchy, revealing just enough to inspire loyalty, while keeping the soul out of reach. Charlotte, more than anyone else in her generation, embodies that balance. She is not just born royal, she is growing up royal, with precision. What's in a title? In the world of monarchy, everything. While Princess Charlotte's current title speaks to who she is now, the titles she may one day receive will speak to what she represents: duty, continuity, and quiet power. And if whispers within the royal circle prove true, King Charles may already be setting the stage for something much larger than a ceremonial nod. The most talked about possibility? Duchess of Edinburgh. Currently held by Prince Edward, Charles's youngest brother, this title is unique, not passed down by bloodline but held for life. When Edward eventually passes, the dukedom will return to the crown. From there, the monarch, either Charles or one day William, will have the power to reassign it. And Charlotte's name has already been floated, not because of lineage alone, but because of symbolism. Giving Charlotte the title would break precedent. No woman has ever held the Duchy of Edinburgh in her own right. To bestow it on Charlotte would be to redefine tradition, not abolish it, but reshape it for a new era. It would send a message that strength, leadership, and legacy are not bound to male heirs. Then there's another possibility, even more exclusive: Princess Royal. Unlike dukedoms, there can only be one Princess Royal at a time. The title is currently held by Princess Anne, King Charles's sister, a woman who has spent her life serving the crown with resilience and resolve. When that title becomes vacant, the monarch doesn't automatically pass it down. It is granted by choice. And if William ascends the throne, few choices would be more fitting than Charlotte. She is, after all, his eldest daughter. She will be raised in the heart of power, but away from the throne. Giving her the title Princess Royal would elevate her status permanently, placing her among the most senior women in the monarchy. Not as a consort, but as a sovereign's daughter in her own right. Both titles, the duchy and the princessship, would place Charlotte on a path parallel to power, not beneath it. And maybe that's the whole point. In a monarchy struggling to modernize without losing its soul, Charlotte's potential titles aren't just honors. They're strategic placements, signals to the world that the crown is evolving. Quietly, carefully, deliberately. Titles tell stories. And the next ones Charlotte receives may write an entirely new chapter in the royal narrative, one where women no longer wait for permission to lead. King Charles doesn't make impulsive decisions, especially not in public, especially not when it involves the line of succession. So, when he broke tradition to grant Princess Charlotte a rare title at the French State Banquet, insiders didn't just see a political move. They saw something more intimate, the clearest sign yet of a deeply personal bond. Among his 3 grandchildren, Charlotte has always stood out, not only to the public but to Charles himself. Royal aides quietly note that whenever Charlotte is in the room, Charles becomes visibly lighter, more engaged, even playful. She reminds him of himself, one palace staffer said. Stubborn, smart, full of questions, and not afraid to challenge you. Their connection has been forged, not through official duties, but through quiet proximity. With Charles spending more time at Windsor and Charlotte living nearby at Adelaide Cottage, their paths cross often, away from cameras, away from palace protocol. But there's a deeper layer. Charles has long expressed, even privately, a quiet regret that he never had a daughter. According to biographer Ingrid Seward, this longing was evident even during Diana's pregnancies. He always wanted a girl, Diana once said, plainly, almost painfully. That wish never materialized. Until now, perhaps, not as a daughter, but as a granddaughter who has become something more. Charlotte doesn't just resemble Charles in personality. She connects with him on an emotional frequency few others in the family do. Their affection is subtle, but consistent. When Charles was spotted last year wearing a colorful handmade bracelet, likely crafted by Charlotte during summer break, it wasn't part of royal regalia. But it meant more than medals ever could. Observers say this may be why Charles bypassed protocol, not because Charlotte is next in line, but because she's the one he sees himself in, the one who might carry forward not just duty, but the emotional intelligence the monarchy often lacks. And perhaps, in giving her that title so publicly, Charles wasn't just honoring a young princess. He was acknowledging a personal truth, that Charlotte isn't just his granddaughter. She's the heir to a part of him that never made it to the throne. No child is born ready for the public eye, but Princess Charlotte has learned to own it. At just 4 years old, she made her first solo walk at the royal Christmas service in Sandringham, smiling, waving, and accepting gifts from strangers with the ease of someone twice her age. It wasn't rehearsed. It was instinct. Since then, every appearance has been a test, and she keeps passing. But make no mistake, these weren't just cute moments caught on camera. Each one was part of a calculated royal trajectory. The Wales family, under the guidance of both palace aides and their own instincts, have slowly and deliberately shaped Charlotte's public image, not as a child celebrity, but as a working royal in training. There's a rhythm to it. 1 year it was a brief walkabout. The next, a national jubilee performance. Then a Commonwealth sporting event. Always age-appropriate. Always just enough, never too much. This isn't exposure. It's preparation. By the time Charlotte stood beside her parents at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in Cardiff, she was no longer just the spare. She was a presence, commanding attention without demanding it. While Prince George played the heir, Charlotte quietly became the connector. She smiled, interacted, and even led an orchestra for a moment, nervous at first, then delightfully confident. At the Commonwealth Games, her confidence deepened. Sitting between William and Catherine, she followed every race with rapt focus, cheered, clapped, and spoke to athletes with grace. When asked her name, she replied without hesitation. When offered a handshake, she gave it with full eye contact. And then there was the big help out. where she painted, laughed, and roasted marshmallows like any 8-year-old, but all under the world's lens. Yet nothing about her presence seemed forced. She didn't perform. She belonged. That's the part that matters. In a family where every gesture becomes symbolism, Charlotte is being taught to balance authenticity with expectation, to represent the crown without losing her humanity. And she's learning it faster than anyone anticipated. Now, when royal events are planned, Charlotte is no longer an accessory to her brothers. She is a variable, a known quantity, a reliable presence who understands what her role demands and delivers it with poise that exceeds her years. Some call her the royal family's secret weapon. But at this point, the secret is out. Charlotte isn't becoming royal, she already is, and the world is watching her grow into it. In the monarchy, being second is the hardest position to hold. The challenge isn't a lack of power, it's being close enough to touch it, yet forever out of reach. That's where Princess Charlotte now stands. Not the heir, but the spare. A word that carries more emotional baggage than ceremonial meaning. History has not been kind to royals in this role. Princess Margaret, Prince Andrew, and most famously Prince Harry. All born into privilege, all placed just behind the throne, and all eventually defined by that distance. Being number 2 in a hierarchical family is a constant pressure, royal historian Robert Hardman once said. Everyone knows you're close, but never quite close enough. And that pressure creates friction. With the public, with the press, with one's own purpose. Charlotte may be young, but her path is already shaped by those who came before her. William and Catherine, having witnessed what went wrong, are rewriting the manual. For them, raising a spare doesn't mean sidelining a child. It means empowering one. Instead of keeping Charlotte hidden, they're placing her where she thrives, on the edges of duty but never excluded. She appears alongside her brothers, not as a tag-along, but as a distinct personality. She's encouraged to engage, to speak, to lead, when the moment allows. And unlike generations past, she's being taught that her worth isn't conditional on the throne. The Waleses understand something previous royals didn't. Spares can be strengths, not rivals, not threats, but assets, if raised with purpose. And that's exactly what Charlotte is being groomed for, a role that supports without competing, that amplifies the crown without overshadowing it. It's a delicate balance. Too much visibility and she risks stealing focus from the heir. Too little and she risks becoming irrelevant. But so far, the balance has held. Charlotte is being raised not to replace, but to reinforce. And in doing so, she may become the first spare in royal history who doesn't grow up haunted by the title, but empowered by it. Not every royal role wears a crown. Some wield influence instead of authority. And that's exactly where Princess Charlotte is quietly rising. In a post-Brexit, post-Megxit, post-monarchy glamour world, the British royal family is no longer just a constitutional institution. It's a brand in need of constant repair. And Charlotte, at just 10 years old, is becoming the most valuable asset in that restoration campaign. She's not controversial. She's not polarizing. She's not weighed down by scandal or tabloid fatigue. She is, quite simply, refreshingly human. Unlike her great-aunt Princess Anne, who commands respect through work ethic and steel, Charlotte charms through warmth and spontaneity. And unlike Catherine, who radiates polished elegance, Charlotte offers glimpses of genuine childlike joy that feel unscripted but never sloppy. That contrast is the power. Charlotte represents the new royal woman, kind but not passive, relatable but never common. She hugs fans. She shares smiles. She makes space for her cousins in viral moments. And she does it all without losing poise. The message isn't spoken, but it's received. This is the future of the monarchy. Real, warm, and unapologetically female. It's no accident that palace photographers increasingly center her in public images, or that her moments, like leading an orchestra or offering flowers to others, go viral faster than any speech or press release. The institution knows what it has. In Charlotte, the crown has found a new kind of ambassador. One who doesn't need to speak to be heard, doesn't need a title to make an impact, and doesn't need years of service to build public trust. That's not tradition, that's strategy. And if the monarchy intends to survive another generation, it won't be through ceremony alone. It will be through figures like Charlotte, who remind the world why royalty still matters. Not because they rule, but because they resonate. The moment at the French State Banquet wasn't planned, but it wasn't spontaneous either. When King Charles looked across the room and honored Princess Charlotte with a title few had expected, and fewer had predicted, he wasn't just bypassing protocol, he was broadcasting a message. To the monarchy, to the public, to history itself. This wasn't about favoritism. It wasn't even about Charlotte's growing popularity. It was about timing, about placing a stake in the ground while the next generation is still being formed, while the memory of Queen Elizabeth is still fresh, while the crown still holds enough moral capital to define the future on its own terms. In giving Charlotte this recognition early, Charles may have done something his predecessors rarely dared. He chose sentiment without sacrificing statecraft. Because behind the sweetness of their bond lies something more durable, trust. And trust in royal politics is rarer than gold. Charlotte, in return, isn't just receiving a title. She's being handed a script, one that reads, "You matter, not because you'll rule, but because you'll shape the world that the ruler inherits." And maybe that's the boldest shift of all. For centuries, titles in the monarchy were given to manage power, preserve structure, enforce hierarchy. But this one? This was given to affirm connection, to signal that identity in the modern monarchy will be defined not just by blood, but by bond. And so, what started as a single gesture in a candlelit banquet hall may go down as something far more enduring. The moment a little girl became a pillar, not of the state, but of its future.